A small church, we have plenty of people willing to step up when others need help.
Amen.
Welcome everybody to this Sunday morning service here at Salt Lake Christian Church. The story that I will be telling you all about this morning is about the hymn, "Another Year is Dawning." This hymn was originally written as a poem in 1874 by a woman named, excuse me as I butcher this, a woman named Frances Ridley Havengill. And so Frances had a deep love for God, but also for the new year. She saw that time of the year as a time of renewal and second chances. And she wrote many poems as well as hymns praising God and thanking Him for the new year, this being one of her more famous ones. She wrote this hymn around Christmas time, shortly before the new year, with hopes and prospects of this poem being published and spread around America, the United States. She had, earlier in the year, signed a contract with a publisher in New York City to exclusively work with them to spread her poetry and music to the United States. It was in early to mid-January when she received her first letter from her publisher, expecting it to be the first of many royalty checks. However, instead of being royalty checks as she had hoped and expected, this letter contained quite a bit of bad news. The publisher that she had signed with ended up going bankrupt in the 1873 stock market crash. And her prospects and hopes for spreading her art to the United States had failed before they had even begun. And because she had signed to exclusively work with them, she was stuck. However, despite this bad news, and I'm sure a couple of weeks of grieving, irritation, and stress, only about 2 months later, we see Frances write to one of her dear friends about this incident. And towards the end of her letter, she wrote that God's will be done and not hers. And that it must have been God's will for her poetry not to be spread to the U.S. quite yet. And so we can see from her writings, her artwork in poetry and her hymns, that not only did she have an awesome love for the Lord, but she had a maturity in her relationship with Christ to not only recognize, but to desire His will for her life and her art over her own. Amen. So thank you. Let's bring the music.